Morning. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you, Liz, for the follow. Ooh, I already hit. See, my problem is I got the desk, right? And I got long legs, right? So I stretched my legs and then I hit my camera. And then I'm like, oh my God, I spent so much money on this camera. I better not break it. Oh, hello. Welcome, Fantalite. Welcome, Beatness. Welcome, Ace Pandit. Johnny Three Tears. Welcome. Good morning, Lewis. And thank you, Real Guy. I really hope I spell. I keep trying to pronounce this right. Is it Gaia Jess or Gaia Guess? Is it Gaia Guess or Gaia Jess? It's funny because I always boast about you. Gaia Jess? I always boast about you, and then I'm just like, oh yeah, Liz. But I'm like, wait, I should probably say the username. Welcome, Matoy. Welcome, Nara. Hey, Bastet. It works. Hello. Welcome. All right. Gotta give my spiel. Hey everybody, welcome to Geek Talk, the talk show where we talk about everything geek. I'm your host, Anthony. Today we have a very special episode. So if you look right underneath the stream box, you'll see that UzerFriendly is a part of the Black History Month 2021 team. Now, funny story about that. We've been planning to do something for Black History Month before we got invited to the team, so I'm really glad that it all ended up being coincided together. Oh, here we go. Good morning, Kat. Good morning, Jeff. So there's a few caveats. This entire month, I have the chat. Oh yeah, I could point this way. I have the chat here is on follower only chat. We're trying to be a little bit more prepared because if you haven't noticed on your phones or on the website, when you go on the front page, right underneath the box with all the beautiful streams for the front page, there's a little thing that says celebrate Black brilliance. Okay, we might end up being in that little box right on the front page. So as much as I love you all, and I love all my beautiful friends out there, I'm gonna tell you, I ain't got the time nor patience to deal with the nonsense. I don't. So if they're gonna come in and try to spam and give us some nonsense this entire month, then they're at least gonna give us a follow. At the very least. Yes, so this entire month we are going to be celebrating Black brilliance. I love the title that Twitch had decided on. I believe that it's actually the title that's chosen by the NAACP for this year. Don't quote me on that, but I love the title, Celebrate Black Brilliance, and that's what we're going to be doing. This stream in particular is just me talking because I feel it necessary. I was in a stream last week and this came up of the talks of racism and like being black and versus being white and all this other stuff. And of course you always get that one, right? And sometimes it's not one, it's a lot more than one, where they are incredibly upset, they get angry, they are like, they can't be me, right? Like, that's not fair. You don't know. Let me actually quote what I get in my messages, right? You don't know what I've been through. How dare you tell me that I'm being racist or I'm not being an ally to Black people? You don't know what I've been through. You don't know anything about me. And you telling me that I have privilege and that I get this, that, or the other thing, and you know nothing about me. You only thing that you know is my skin color is racist, and you need to shut up, right? Always happens, especially to me, because I'll be completely frank with all of y'all. I literally don't care. Let's see. I've seen it used by someone else on Twitter. Yeah, I don't care. I don't care. This stream is going to be rough. I'm going to go through a lot of my personal stuff. This stuff isn't, I'll be completely frank, this isn't totally organized. I did a stream in August where I had like everything organized, and I was given a whole lesson for 4 hours, and I had this talk about the Atlantic slave trade and the GI Bill and redlining and all this other stuff. So this is not that organized. I have a couple of talking points that I'm going to talk about, and it's going to be mostly talking about my own experiences and experiences that I have seen, and talking about white fragility, what that is, how to recognize what white fragility is, and how to be anti-racist, right? Because it is not good enough to just, it's not good enough to not be racist, right? It's not good enough. You have to be anti-racist, because as Martin Luther King Jr. said best, complacency is worse. I'm kind of paraphrasing that. It's the white centrist is the worst in the, I don't know the exact quote. I have the quote here somewhere, but 100. Yes, so it's not good enough to just not be racist. You must be anti-racist. That's important. I'm gonna talk to y'all about how to talk to your racist friends. This is mostly for you white folk out there, right? So how to talk to your, because I'm gonna start with this. It is not on black people to end racism. It never has been, and it never will be. Y'all get that? Cool. Now, I'm gonna even say this. I'm gonna take it a step further, because a lot of things have happened in the past month, especially politically, where people have been really pushing us. Gotta take a stand. Absolutely. You need to do something. It's not enough to just be complacent and say, oh well, I just ignored it. No, you have to be anti-racist, right? So even in the past month with the elections, you know, everyone was really pushing Stacey Abrams and all the black women in Georgia that rallied together to get all of these people to go out and vote. And then we won the Senate seats. The Democrats won the Senate seats over in Georgia, right? And they were like, yeah. And they're putting, and this is disgusting, they're putting Stacey Abrams in Game of Thrones memes. And they're like, oh yeah, go Stacey, and blah, blah, blah. And they always put this much pressure on black women to fix the problem. Like, it's not on black women to fix your problems. They're just the ones that go out and fix them for you, because y'all never do nothing about it. So taking that, but I'm gonna rewind a little bit. I'm gonna put a disclaimer here, a couple disclaimers. So number one, you're probably going to be upset, and that's okay. That is the first step in being anti-racist. It's okay. And I'm going to literally tear down all of your thoughts, everything that you thought was okay with your life and you thought was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna break those down, and it's gonna be rough, right? It's gonna be real rough. It's like Doctor Strange, when Doctor Strange goes into the that's another topic in and of itself, but Doctor Strange walks up to the temple, and the monk is like, oh, everything that you know was a lie, and Doctor Strange is like, I don't know what you're talking about, and then she just go boom, and then he like comes out of the body and goes back in. That's gonna be y'all. So you're gonna be upset. Hey, welcome Taz. You're gonna be upset, and that's great. Be upset. I'm just gonna let you know that I don't care. Number two, this isn't a discussion. This isn't, I mean, let me rephrase that. I'm not here to debate. It's not a debate. This isn't a debate. Hey, welcome, Tony. I'm not here to debate. So if you come here to sit here and debate with me, you're going to get banned. It's that simple. I have a bunch of mods in the chat and they know what to look out for because they've been with me for quite some time and they've heard me talk about these things quite some time, and they've seen a lot of the things that people repulsively say, or reflexive, not repulsively, reflexively say. And I'm not here to debate. So I can answer questions. I will answer questions if they're not stupid. There are such things as stupid questions. And hey, welcome. We got Bruce, welcome, Bruce. And Keymac 007, welcome. But yeah, I'm not here to debate. So that's simple. I will answer questions. I have no problem answering questions. I will be frank, there's a lot of specific things, like there's specific dates that I'm not going to be able to remember off the top of my head, specific names and events that I'm not going to be able to remember off the top of my head, and that's my disclaimer. I'm no expert. I just live my life and I study Black history a lot, and I'm in the Black sphere and communities, and I see it and I hear about it and I get angry. So this is me talking and me trying to, this is my step in trying to help my wonderful friends that are all over Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, and just not even in real life, where they have to deal with the nonsense that people give them all the time just for the color of their skin, and it's absolutely ridiculous. And it comes down to not just someone going, oh, I won't kill them. It's like giving no side eyes, it's getting patted down at the store, it's people talking over you, even worse, it's people talking for you. Especially nowadays, when the whole Black Lives Matters movement was like the thing in during the summer, it was the thing, and it's not the thing anymore. I.e., let's look at Ninja. We've already talked about that a little bit, but it's not the thing anymore, so who cares, right? No, but these people talk for you. They don't listen to you. They don't support you. It's awful. It's actually awful. It's almost worse. It's almost worse than the people that come into my mentions with nooses, right? It's the little things that add up. Yeah, exactly. It really is. It's the it's the microaggressions. It's the microaggressions, and they get to you and they add up, and then you get to a point where you're like, what do I do? Disclaimer number 3. So disclaimer number 1, I'm not here to debate. You can ask questions, absolutely, but if you're here to debate me, you're going to get banned from the chat. Done. Disclaimer number 2, you're going to be upset. That's great. Learn from it. And disclaimer number 3, this is from a Black cis presenting male experience. So what that means, I cannot speak on behalf of Black women, and I will not speak on behalf of Black women. I believe that you should all be supporting them and following them. Like right after the stream, I'm going to raid someone from the Black Brilliance section, and there are plenty of Black women in there that I very much look up to. Follow them on Twitch, watch their streams, follow them on Twitter. They talk a lot and they say some really great things, like really great things, and they give out knowledge for free. I also cannot speak on behalf of my black trans siblings, okay? I can't, because I do not have the same experiences that they have. They are also phenomenal, and they're also wonderful, and you should also be following and supporting them, and donating to their GoFundMes and their Ko-fis and their Patreons. You should all be supporting them. All right, Cool. I think that's the 3 disclaimers. If things get nonsense in the chat, my mods, my wonderful mods, my friends, feel free. Take some anger out. You know I love y'all. So now y'all get to actually do some punching. All right, so let's start. So first, a little bit about me. So my name is Anthony, as y'all probably already know. I am the creator of UzerFriendly, an organization dedicated to creating a community safe space for people to learn and enjoy geek culture together. I've been doing this entire organization we're almost on our 7th birthday next month, and I love every second of it. For me, when I grew up and was born in Yonkers, New York, which is near Westchester. Yonkers, New York, the part that I'm from was not the greatest. There was a lot of poor folk, right? So we used to live in an apartment. This apartment was pretty large, and it was so funny because my mom always used to tell me, like, hey, you can't go to these certain spots, right? So I wasn't allowed. So there were 3 corner stores where I was from. Okay, if y'all don't know what a corner store is, so in New York, a lot of people call it like bodegas, whatever, but in certain parts of the city, Westchester is near Manhattan, by the way. So in certain parts of the city, we have things called corner stores. They're little bodegas that are at the corner of the street. That's why we call them corner stores, right? And they would sell things like potato chips. You can get bread. In Philly, we call them poppy stores. Poppy stores, see? Yeah, like you go to the corner store. What do you get from the corner store? You can get deli meats, you get a sandwich, you can get potato chips, you can get your bread, you can get milk, you know, whatever. It's like going to kind of like a gas station, but there's no gas, all right? I'm trying to really like whiteify what a lot of these things are. So but on 2 of the corners was where the gangs used to hang out. So my mom was like, oh, you're not allowed to go there. You're not allowed to go to that corner store up the hill. You're not allowed to go to that corner store up the hill. But the corner store that's down the hill, that's right by the garage, that's absolutely fine. I was like, okay. Wasn't really allowed to go outside. So I'm very much what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say like hermit, but I never really went outside. I was very much indoors most of my life. Never really went outside. I didn't start going outside until I moved to where I am now, which is still in New York, but it is way more white than it is black. I'll tell you that. So back where I was from, it was very abnormal to see white people. So I think in my class in elementary school, we had 1 white kid, maybe 2. We had 2 white kids, maybe. Hey, Tishoda, welcome. I'm too a hermit, exactly. Like, quarantine for me has been rough, but honestly, for a long portion of it, I'm like, this is what I do every day anyway. So yeah, back where I'm from, the school, there was like maybe 1 or 2 white kids in my class. Definitely not that many. It was mostly black kids, Hispanic kids, Albanian kids. There weren't a lot of just white kids. And by white, I am using the definition of like Irish, Russian, German, European, St. John's Hospital. Goodness. Yeah, that's not where I was born. But I technically wasn't born in Yonkers, but I was born in Mount Vernon. So yeah, from the city. As much as people like to argue with me, a lot of New Yorkers like to argue I'm not from the city. Yeah, I'm from the city. I lived in the city half my life. So when I turned around, it's about 11 or 12, I moved up to White Folk Town. I'm not going to give the name. White Folk Town. and I went to school, and everything was totally different, completely different. I walked in and not a single person looked like me. Nobody. And I was like, huh? And that is when I figured out what race was. It's wild when you're in these spaces that are so incredibly diverse, right? And you're like, oh, you don't think anything about it. Everyone's got melanin in their skin. Then you go to a place where no people ain't got melanin in their skin. And you're just like, oh my gosh, like, do I belong here? And this is little me. I was maybe 10, 11 years old. And I was like, wow, none of these people look like me. And the neighbors would all like tease me because I didn't know how to ride a bike, I didn't know how to swim, and all this other stuff. And I was like, yeah, I never really went outside, so like, how would I learn how to do that, right? Like, I saw that there was a TikTok that was going around about why a lot of black folk don't know how to swim, and that's because the public pools were segregated. And when they were starting to desegregate public pools, people would start pouring acid in the pools when black people would want to go in there. So black folks started to just not go to pools. And then white folk were like so disgusted by black people being in pools because they were disgusting, they were dirty, they ended up making private pools. And that's why people got pools on their backyard. It's funny how everything circles back to racism. Literally everything. Everything. Yep. So I moved up here. I didn't know a lot of things. I didn't really understand a lot of things. The schooling is education that I was receiving was vastly different. So when I was down in Yonkers, they were cutting the budgets for the schools constantly, and it had gotten to the point where we're in class, and they had cut essentially every program. So we didn't have an art program, we didn't have a music program. They were renting out classrooms during school time so that they could make a little bit more money. It was really getting really bad. We didn't have like a music room or an art room or any of that stuff. All those people used to just carry their stuff. They have a little what do you call those things? They had those egg crates. They had an egg crate, and it would like extend with the handle, and they had wheels, and they just take the egg crates around to the different classes. And that's how we did stuff. So we never played like the recorder. I know that was a thing when when I moved up here. There was no like recorders or instruments or any of that. It was just, you know, listening to songs, and then on a little boombox, and then singing them. That was our music. Our art class, we didn't learn about artists. We didn't learn about Monet or Picasso or Van Gogh and all of that fun stuff. All we did was draw butterflies and hand turkeys. Easter eggs on Easter. And yeah, hand turkeys on Thanksgiving. Then otherwise we just draw butterflies every other week. It wasn't anything of substance. The education that I had received from Yonkers was nowhere near the level of education that I was receiving from here in white people town. Nowhere near it. Everything was way further more advanced. We're talking mathematics, literature, music, art, what did we have? Theater, everything was just way more advanced. That is not to poop on the teachers that I had when I was in elementary school. I know it's not your fault. It's not your fault. You are just a cog in the system that was meant to keep the black person down. So I understand it's not your fault. And I have to give a huge shout out to my 3rd grade teacher, who is a published illustrator and author named Gavin Curtis, who really pushed us to learn and become more cultured, and really pushed the boundaries of what people could learn, of what these kids could learn at such a young age. If it wasn't for him really honestly loving what he did and pushing that boundary, I don't think I'd be here right now. Don't. That man was like, you are going to watch the Phantom of the Opera at 8 years old and you're gonna learn the songs, and we're gonna learn about Barbra Streisand, and we're gonna watch Star Wars and learn about the whole history and making of Star Wars and all this great, amazing person. So I want to give a special shout out to him, so thank you. But that's a little bit about my history. When I came up here, I was a very much self-hating person. I hated that I was black, and I will absolutely admit that I didn't understand who I was until college. Even through the last couple of years of high school, when I was starting to come to terms with my skin and being black and my culture and my history, it still didn't fully sink in until I started to go to college. I hated being black. I hated being different. Hated it. I remember I would talk to people and they would tell me that they wouldn't really want to be friends with me because I was black. I remember people always saying that, you know, I would try to fit in and try to do things that all the other kids would do, and they would be like, oh yeah, you're like the whitest black guy I know. That's not a compliment. They'd be like, you're an Oreo. I'm sure other black folk that are in this chat have probably heard that same thing. Oh, you're like an Oreo, black on the outside, white on the inside. It you know, that stuff sinks in and it starts. Yeah, I've gotten that before. You get it. It's rough. It's so rough. But I will tell you that it might not get better from the outside, but from the inside, it can get better. I have learned from years and years of experience and learning from other black folk, and really diving into more black communities and really embracing who I was as a black person, and you gain a new sense of confidence. And I will tell you that black is beautiful. I know a lot of people say that, but black is beautiful. When you see the things that we have done and we have overcome, and you learn how through all of the nonsense that white folk have put us through for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, that we have still come out on top, and they are still scared of us. They are still afraid of how strong and how powerful and how beautiful that we are. They are still afraid, and you know what? You better be afraid. So I will tell you that yes, I was a self-loathing black person, and there are still plenty of us out there, people that might not be kids, they might not be teenagers, but full-grown adults, even more hearts, even like people that have gone through this stuff, that are 70, 80, 90 years old, right? Some of them are still self-loathing, and you know, I can't blame them because of the nonsense that we have had to deal with for all of our lives, that you can't walk down the street without people being afraid of who you are. You can't go into a store without someone thinking that you're going to steal something and patting you down, right? Like, I understand that you want to be one of them, but you're never going to be one of them, and you need to come to terms with that, and you need to understand that who we are is honestly way better, and we are way more powerful than they will ever be. Yeah, all off the cuff. Honestly, none of that was planned. So Just a little bit more on my experiences. When I was in high school, I hated it. I hated people telling me that I was white on the inside, black on the outside. I hated that I felt like I wasn't attractive because I didn't have long straight hair, and I didn't have blue eyes or green eyes, that I didn't have straight teeth. Like, I always felt just different, like very, very different, like an outcast, right? You put yourself into the situation where there's nobody there that looks like you, and when you find the people that look like you, it's like one or two people. And even they have their own issues that they're going through with, because they are dealing with the same thing that you're dealing with. Finally, after learning more and more about our culture and learning more about who we are, I've came to terms with who I was and how great it is to be black. And I feel so bad for the people who aren't black. I'm like, yo, y'all live like this? It's like the Goofy meme. You're like, y'all actually live like this? Like, oh goodness. So, a little bit more on my experiences. A little bit more on my experiences with racism. So, like I said before, the first time I actually even realized what race was when, you know, I walked into this class and like nobody looked like me. When I say nobody, I mean nobody looked like me. And I'm like, whoa. And everyone looks at you and they look at you, and y'all know that look. Y'all know that look. They look at you and you're like, oh, do I belong here? When I was in that class, I always was, honestly, like, I've always been, I don't want to like sound self-indulgent, but I've always been bright. Okay, I've always been smart. And I remember I'm in this class and we were learning how to do multiplication, and we were doing multiplication like 3 by 3, multiplying a 3-digit number by a 3-digit number. And I was absent. I was sick for a couple of days before that, so I come back to school, and this teacher, we had a substitute teacher at the time, and they handed out this worksheet, and I told the substitute teacher, like, hey, I'm a little lost. There's a little 10-year-old me. I'm like, hey, I don't really understand, I'm a little lost. And she's like, oh, you don't get this? Okay, I'm putting you into the remedial class. And actually told me, hey, thank you so much, Rye America, for the follow, greatly appreciate it. So this teacher flat out was like, oh, you don't get this? Okay, I gotta put you in the remedial class. And she puts me in the remedial class, and this is a class for kids that took a little bit longer to understand all of the subjects. The kids, or it would be the kids that would cause problems in the classroom. And when I tell you that I was so upset, I asked a question and I was treated like I was an idiot. Not to say that those kids were stupid, you know, but the way that this teacher talked to me, the way that this teacher had forcibly removed me from this class to put me into a remedial class that I had no business being in. This was like my first real experience that I had recognized of racial discrimination and microaggressions, you know, where I was the only black person in the class. I got put in the slow lane several times myself when I didn't belong there. It's, you know, it's like I was the only black kid in the class, and I asked this teacher a question, and the immediate response was, oh, you don't belong here. Microaggression. Luckily the teacher that I had at the time came back and he knew what happened, and he went in. I mean, he went in because he knew where I came from, and he understood just like how much I've always loved learning, and I've always pushed myself to go harder and do better. And he understood that, and he went in and he stormed through, and that teacher was never teaching ever again. I'll tell you that. That was my first actual experience that I had recognized. Throughout the years, I really pushed my, I didn't think I was good enough. Throughout all of middle school, I hated being black. Hated it. I wouldn't take things seriously. I wouldn't take my classes seriously because I felt like I didn't even belong there. People treated me like I didn't belong there. My classmates, my teachers, all of them treated me like I didn't actually belong there. I was in all honors classes in my middle school days, or at least my first year of middle school. And after my first year, I realized how much I hated it. And the teachers would make fun of me, and oh goodness, they hated it. I couldn't stand it. It's hard for me to go through this, so I apologize. Hey, thank you so much for the resub, Kit Bash. 2 months. Thank you. I also want to put another disclaimer. I'm gonna apologize that sometimes I might repeat myself, sometimes I might have to take a breath. A lot of this is my experiences, and I hate going through them, especially out loud. In middle school, I was definitely a little bit more mature than a lot of the people that I had gone to middle school with. When I was in middle school, the only thing that I did was go on Gaia Online. And I know I thank you for sharing a lot of this. Listen, I appreciate. In middle school, all I did was go on Gaia Online, because on Gaia I could be whatever I wanted. Right, I could be whatever I wanted, and I got to make myself with long hair, and I had long hair, and I had like a devil's tail and wings, and I made a bunch of friends on Gaia Online, and I absolutely loved it. And a lot of the people I made friends with were older than me, so when I would talk to them, they would teach me things, and they would treat me like an equal and not like a little kid. So I grew up to be a little bit more mature. And one of the things that I had recognized at a very young age was that I was not straight. And this is back in 2000. And hey, thank you so much, Phoenix Fikari, for the follow. Greatly appreciate it. So I recognized at a very young age that I was not straight. I did not know what I was until way into adulthood, thanks to a really good friend of mine. Way into adulthood, but I knew I wasn't straight. Oh my goodness. Wow. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kit Bash, for 20 subscriptions. Oh my gosh. Y'all, please put some hearts in the chat for Kit Bash. Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. I can't. Thank you. I gotta take my headphones off for a second. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna turn off the alerts for a little bit. Let's see, that should turn off the alert. Yeah, I'm just gonna turn off the alerts for a minute. Thank you so much, Kit Bash. That means the world to me. Yes, it's Anthony S. So I love you with all of my heart. I love you so much. And thank you, Youngest Girl, for the follow. Greatly appreciate it. So, throughout middle school, my teachers did not treat me well. At least my first year in middle school, teachers did not really treat me well. They really didn't want me there, and then I didn't even want to be there. And I was in honors classes, and you know, they look at me being, I think I was one of maybe, I think I had 2 or 3 other black people in those honors classes. I think as a whole there might have been just a handful of us in those honors classes, but something that I've noticed is that a lot of the wonderful black folk that I had grown up with definitely had parents that were like, yo, you need to be an example. And that's something that like is a large weight to put on people's shoulders, where it's like, you need to be an example, you need to do well in school, and you need to make friends and do all these extracurricular activities because you need to be the first black president. When you're gifted and talented kid in school with like 8 other black kids total. Exactly. It's rough. It's really rough. So in middle school, it was rough. I hated myself. And my first year of high school, my first 2 years of high school, I definitely did not understand what it meant to be black. I hated it. I used to say the N-word all the time. I used to talk about how much I hated it, and I make racist jokes all the time. And like that part of me, I'm so disgusted by, but it is this ingrained hatred that, hey, lurking while D&D, welcome Sile. It's this ingrained hatred that I can take a little bit of responsibility for, and I do take responsibility for it. But honestly, when you live in a society that doesn't want you to be black and they don't want you to do well, and everyone around you doesn't understand what blackness is, and they don't want you to do well, and they don't think you can do well because you're black. So I'm gonna fast forward a little bit into my times in high school. When I was in, hearing you owning that is so inspiring. I greatly appreciate it, because it's true. It's the truth. Like, I hated it. I hated myself, and I would be like, I would go with the white kids and be like, oh, you know, them dang N-words and blah blah blah, and they're like, oh yeah, they act mad ghetto, and oh man, I can't believe they say axe you and all this, and you know, I never like, it was literally me projecting my insecurities on other black folk that were just minding their own business, and that's not cool. It's not cool. And I definitely have grown way past that, because I am oh my Lanta. Now Cherry's giving 5 tier 1 subs. Y'all are thank you so much. So who I finally came a little bit with who I was. I was sitting in my history class, and I'm in history, and I did not care. I used to just sleep and joke around with my friends, and I'd be like the class clown or whatever, whatever you might say. And I'm sitting in class, and we have to take a midterm. I'm like, no, whatever. So I take this midterm. I've always been a very quick test taker, so I take this midterm. It takes me like 25 minutes instead of the hour that we have. I fall asleep. I'm like, I didn't study. I was like, I failed, whatever. I don't care. High school doesn't matter. School doesn't matter. Education doesn't matter. And then I come back to school. I think they graded it within the week. I come back, and my history teacher goes up to the front of the class, and I I love this man so much. He goes up to the front of the class and he tells the entire class, hey, so I want to tell y'all that a lot of y'all did not do well on this midterm. The average grade was like a little bit low, and we're gonna work on that together, blah blah blah. A lot of y'all did not remember this thing, that thing. And then he goes, and I need to specifically point out Anthony. And I'm like, oh God, what happened? And he's like, Anthony, you were the only person to get a perfect score. And I was like, Nani? And he's like, you did a phenomenal job. You got a perfect score on the midterm. And that's when I finally like came to terms with like, hey, maybe I should care. Like, this is stuff that I like and I actually enjoy and care about and I love learning. And instead of acting cool so that I could fit in with the white kids, and yo, when I say fit in with the white kids, I meant like the trash white kids. I'm not talking like the I'll buy you a new iPad white kid. I'm talking like the you know what I'm talking about. So I started really taking history seriously, and I really buckled down and learned a lot. And you know, something that really stuck out to me, and this is still a little bit within my black hatred phase, something that stuck out to me was like, we learned a lesson about what happened in Africa, right? And when in like the entire continent of Africa, where it was Europe and I think it was either Japan or China and like Russia and Germany, and they came together and they were like, oh, look at Africa, and they split it up and they said, okay, I get this one, you get that one, you get this one, you get that one, as if people didn't already live there, and then drained us of all of our resources, and here we are. And I was like, wow, that's messed up. That's screwed up. That is absolutely screwed up. And I was like, maybe there's more to this that I definitely don't know. And something that really sticks out to me, and I talked about this last time, and I always tell this story, is when I was in 8th grade and I'm sitting in history class, and the history teacher is saying, hey, what was the difference between Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X? And me being me, I'm like, me, pick me. And the teacher goes, okay, yes, Anthony. I'm like, Martin Luther King Jr. believed in nonviolence and Malcolm X was violent. And my 8th grade teacher said, that is correct. I'm here to tell you that is not correct. That is white rhetoric. Ouch. Yeah, ouch. Let me tell you that I went through almost my entire life without actually knowing the truth of Malcolm X. My entire life. This is my history. Now, this is where I get frustrated and I get incredibly angry. And this is something that I speak about constantly. It's my history. This is my history to learn. It is up to you as a teacher, especially a white teacher, to ensure that I learn about my history. These textbooks that we get do not have my history in them. Not at all. Everything that is in those textbooks is completely whitewashed. They do not talk about the amount of struggle that we have gone through in this country as Black Americans. They do not talk about how the entire country was built on the back of Black Americans. We built this country. Without us, there would be no America. We built everything. Everything that you enjoy in this country to this day was created by Black people. Everything. Everything. If you are a teacher, it is your responsibility, especially if you are white, to ensure that black people, black children, black teenagers, black young adults understand their history, or at least point them in the direction that they can learn more about their history. It is your job. It is not. I don't care about George Washington. I don't care about Thomas Jefferson. I don't care about Benjamin Franklin. I don't care about Abraham Lincoln or John F. Kennedy. None of those people matter to me. Why aren't you telling me about the countless black people that built this country? Countless. The people that's names were erased from history. People that have been torn down and whitewashed. Tell me more about Martin Luther King Jr. No, he was not just about, oh, blacks and whites need to work together to fix the problem, because that is a complete and utter lie. Complete lie. Read any of his essays, watch any of his speeches, and you would know that. Any of them. Colonizers, yeah, literally though, right? Literally. Like, let's talk about how for my entire life, the only thing that I ever heard about with the civil rights movement is that Rosa Parks refused to get up from the back, or get up from the front of the bus. And that's what sparked the civil rights movement. Why didn't you tell me that she was a part of one of the many organizations that were working towards creating the civil rights movement, that were protesting? Why didn't you tell me that? Why didn't you tell me about SNCC? Why are you putting everything on one person, Rosa Parks? Why didn't you tell me that it was even a planned protest? Why are you just martyring these people and not giving me the full history? It's my history. It's mine. Sorry. You know, I'm not sorry. But it's so frustrating because we as black folk don't get the privilege of knowing our heritage. We don't get the privilege of knowing our ancestry. We don't get the privilege of knowing our history. It's not fair. It's not fair. When I was in 11th grade, well, I was in 10th grade, I was starting to take my studies very seriously. You know, I had a lot of profound thoughts about Superman and like Raisin in the Sun and all the other stuff that we were, you know, talking about at the time. And I've always been a somewhat decent writer. Decent. I'm gonna put myself as like decent, like a C tier, C plus maybe. B minus the best. And my English teacher was like, hey, listen, I think you should be in AP English. And I talked about this story last time, and it's a rough story, so trigger warning for some real racist nonsense here. So my English teacher, I was in the what we call Regents English, which is the regular English class. So there's regular, there's honors, and there's AP. And my English teacher said, you should skip honors, go straight into AP English. You deserve to be there. And I thank him because this is what changed a lot. So to go from where I was into AP English, I had to stay after school. And we were in this room and we had to get on the computer, and this teacher, I'm not going to name this teacher's name. The people that know me personally know exactly who this is because he did this to me constantly. So so I'm sitting in this room with a bunch of other people, a bunch of other kids, and we're sitting at this computer, and the teacher says, hey, listen, you are going to spend 45 minutes. You're going to read this article about Thomas Paine's Common Sense and write an essay about it. So I'm sitting in this room, and I'm reading this essay, and I'm like, cool. And what I did was I had referenced Martin Luther King Jr. and the I Have a Dream speech. And I essentially, I literally could not remember anything about this essay, but I do remember that the only thing I do remember of this essay is that I had compared the I Have a Dream speech and Martin Luther King Jr.'s teachings to Thomas Paine's Common Sense, which is, you know, the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And I write my essay and I hand it in, and we have to wait. And he pulls people out one by one. And I'm waiting. It's finally my turn. He pulls me out and he looks at me. White teacher. He looks at me and he goes, "Yeah, I don't think you're ready for AP English." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." Right? I didn't think anything of it. And he goes, "Yeah, I was reading your essay," and then he looks down at the paper and he reads my essay. And he goes, "Oh, wait, never mind. Yeah, you can join AP English." He never read my essay. Never read it. He took one look at me and he said that I wasn't ready. I go into this AP English class, and my entire experience in this class was an absolute hellhole. I took my studies seriously at this point, not down to what a lot of people would take their studies as seriously, but I did take my studies seriously, and I read all of the readings and really pushed myself to learn. And my teacher refused to call on me. He never called on me. He put me into the back left of the class. I was in the very back seat of the classroom. And God, he never read anything that I ever wrote. Never, all of my papers, he never graded. He just gave me an A. He never graded anything. He never looked at anything that I wrote, ever. I had written a poem at the time, because at this time I was very serious about revolutionizing the education system, and that the education system that we have today is not good. And I wrote a poem, and the poem was called 65, and essentially it was using a lot of an anaphora, saying why is a 64 worse than a 65? Because a 65 is a passing grade and a 64 is not. So what is the difference between a 64 and a 65? There isn't. It's 1 point. And I put so much work and rhetoric and my passions into this essay, and I wrote this. It took me hours. I sat all night writing this essay. And of course, he's my English teacher, so what do? I said, "Hey, can you read my poem? I worked really hard on this." And he was like, "Yeah, absolutely." So he takes my poem, and I'm waiting. And the next day I go into the classroom and I look at the trash can, and the poem that I wrote is in the trash. He just took my thing and just threw it out. This is the same person that when we were doing an assignment on Macbeth, and we were creating a movie. So every person in all of his classes had a specific scene, and we had to record that scene word for word and then put our own take on it. And that was like, we put it together into the project. And I told, we had to tell him what we were going to do. And I told him, "Hey, you know, Scott Pilgrim just came out, and what we're going to do is we're going to have the fight scene in Smash Bros. And then we're going to make the one of the people go poof into like coins, like in Scott Pilgrim." And he told me, "I don't think you can do that." And I'm like, "I'm sorry, what?" He's like, yeah, coming from your background, I don't think you have the skills to do that. Now, I want y'all to take a look at this stream right now that y'all are watching. Tell me that I don't have the skills to do that. Tell me I don't have the skills. Tell me. Tell me that I consistently work with other streamers to make their streams look good, that I have been video editing for a very, very, very long time, that I have done countless events and countless content with countless amounts of people, and this white guy has the nerve to tell me, coming from my background where I'm from, that he doesn't believe that I have the skills to do that. There was a white girl in my class who was very tech savvy, and it's proof of your work. I only helped a tiny bit. That's all you, friend. I had this white girl in my class who was very the caucasity. Thanks for carrying the video editing part of our economics project. I forgot about that. Yeah, I don't have the skills. So he tells me, coming from my background, I don't have the skills for this. There's this white girl in my class who was very much like, I'm going to be a female developer. I'm going to be in computer science. I'm going to be this huge feminist and change the technology industry. And he was like, yeah, you do that. You're doing great. And they're sitting there and they're talking. And they're talking about operating systems. And she has this book. She's got this thick old book, and she's talking about operating systems. And she's like, oh yeah, and I use Ubuntu Linux and blah blah blah. And I walk up and I'm like, why do you use Ubuntu? And he has the nerve to tell me, I don't think you know what you're talking about. I would listen to her. I'm like, no. Why are you using Ubuntu? Oh, because it's a lightweight operating system, and then anything that I want to run that only runs like an executable file, I just run in Wine, and then you know, then I could run Windows as a separate virtual machine. And I'm like, so you're telling me that you downloaded an operating system so that you can use another operating system within that operating system? Make it make sense. I've been I've always been against Linux, but that's me. Yeah, protect the white girl, right? And I still don't understand that to this day. I work in IT. What is the point of running Linux if you are going to run Windows in Linux? Explain that to me. There is no point. It's to look cool. I get it. I like cool things too. Like, look back here. I get it. Sometimes you just want to show off. I got my Persona 5 Royal figure. I get it. Sometimes you want to show off, but like, you don't need to be an elitist about it, right? Oh, and let's put the tip of the iceberg. Oh, for clout only, lame. Yeah, let's take the tip of the or let's put the cherry on top, not the tip of the iceberg, the cherry on top, right? One day we're talking about essays, and I have always been an advocate of writing whatever you want to write about, and that it doesn't matter. Like, this elitism in education is inherently racist, where, oh, I can't use slang in my writing, and I can't talk about certain things in my writing. And I'm like, why y'all sit here and preach about how William Shakespeare is one of the greatest authors and playwrights of all time, and all he did was write slang, right? I'm like, I don't understand. Y'all talk about The Great Gatsby, which is littered with misspellings in it. Littered. It's been published and it's littered with misspellings in it. Like, I don't understand, you know, it's not make it make sense, because it doesn't. It's all elitist. Shakespeare regularly made up, it's, you know what I'm saying? And we sit there and we praise this white guy, and it's like, so I can't say lit in my essay? Or I can't use no cap in my poem? Get out of here with that noise. Get out of here. So I was talking about something, I don't even remember. I think I was talking about how I was going to write for my AP exam, I was going to write about the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, which I did, and the Pokemon episode Bye Bye Butterfree, which I did, and about the cultural significance and impact that both of those pieces of media had for people of color. And and he goes, "You got it, my brother." Yo, if y'all saw the look on my face when he called me my brother, I was like, what? Who? Racist English teacher standing King's English, but then not knowing how black folks have to code switch all the time, right? All the time. It's so, like, my code switching is so bad. It get like, and like the people at work see it a lot, because, you know, when I talk at work for my immediate colleagues and everything, even to people a little bit higher up than me, I very much talk like I talk here, and I am not apologizing for it. I am not. But when it starts to get to the people that can fire me on a whim, then I'm like, well, hey there. Why, hello. Yes, how are you? As per my last email. When you gotta go customer service mode, oh yeah, it's bad. It's real bad. So that was my English teacher. Oh, a little bit, let's circle back to the poem that I wrote. I wrote the poem, and a friend of mine at the time was like, hey, this is an amazing poem, would you mind if I used it? And I was like, you know what, yeah, why don't you use that for your project and don't put my name on it, and let's see what happens. And that's exactly what they did. And my professor was like, oh my goodness, this was so well written, and this is amazing. Oh my god, you can feel the passion, the anaphora, etc., etc. And the people in that group that were in that group get together, and they're like, huh, Anthony wrote that. And the look on his face, and I was like, yeah, I did, because I sat on the class that they did this, so I was like, I did write that. And you threw it in the trash. And look on his face. Yeah, got him. With that, that is what really pushed me a little bit into learning and accepting who I was as a black person. It still took a few years, and it wasn't until I had gotten into college when I finally learned about black history and stuff. If y'all know, I go by Anthony T'Challa, and that is because as black folk, which a lot of people do not realize, most black folk do not have a last name. Now, this is something that is very difficult for people to recognize, but when black folk were slaves, they would take the last name of their slave owners. Because, and even after we were emancipated, we didn't know how to read. We were illiterate. Oh my Lanta, thank y'all. Thank you, Bastet, for the 5 tier 1 subs. Oh my Lanta, this is a sub day. Loving your blackness in a world that insists and teaches you hate. It is a beautiful accomplishment. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's wording. So it took me a while. It wasn't until I was finally in college when I really started to solidify and understand that black is beautiful, that I am black, and that we're great. Like, we're amazing. You go through classes. I took a class specifically on American culture, American society and culture, from the 1920s all the way up until about 2010, and everything, literally everything that you enjoy, that you do right now, everything was created by a black person. Everything. Hey, thank you, Sile, for the 100 bits. Thank you so much for the cheer. I appreciate it. Like, you know what? We're on Twitch, so let's talk about video games. The video game cartridge was created by a black person. Modern video games created by a black person, a black engineer. Music, whatever your favorite genre of music is, created by a black person. Name one. Like, literally any genre. I want to see in the chat. Give me a genre. Oh, this way. In the chat, give me a genre. Give me a genre. Any genre of music. Any of them. Pop, black person. Black people invented pop. Rock, black people invented rock. Rock wasn't even popularized until white people took it over, i.e. Elvis Presley. Elvis Presley was only popular because he was a white person that danced and sounded like a black person. Metal, black people. Classical, black people. Retro synthware, black people. House, ballroom, black people. Electronic, black people. Synth, black people. Elvis is a racist. Absolutely. I hate Elvis. Ska, black people. Country, black people. Christmas music. You know? That's a good one. I don't know. You know, actually, I'm gonna say that Christmas music actually circles back into gospel, so black people. Nickelback, yes. Rock music stolen by black people. Jazz, black people. Blues, black people. R&B, black people. Hip-hop, black people. Rap, black people. Gospel, black people. Pop, black people. Jews write most modern Christmas music. Probably. I don't know modern Christmas music, but I'm going to say that a lot of Christmas music is circle back into basic gospel. So yeah, Justin Bieber isn't a genre, thank God. Biebs came from a dumpster. So basically anything that you enjoy, everything that you enjoy was started by a black person and then stolen by white people. It's so wild. And you know what? I'm gonna even bring it into 2021. Call of Duty, modern video games were created by a black person. Goodness gracious. The name is escaping my head. He was a black engineer that created the modern video game cartridge. He also worked on a lot of things in the video game industry that pushed the video game industry to where it is today, and bringing games from giant arcade machines onto your console. He was a black engineer and entrepreneur, and gospel is a huge influence on all music. Fact. He was a black engineer and entrepreneur, and banks wouldn't give him money because he was black. They didn't believe that he could do it. Y'all have no idea how much I appreciate skin tones and character customization. Yes, exactly. I cannot tell you how much. Gerald Lawson, thank you so much for that, Lewis. The name just escaped my head. Gerald Lawson, look him up. He was an amazing person. He did a lot of things, a lot of great things that we take not take advantage, but we take for granted in modern day society. did a lot of really great things. And yeah, and speaking of how black people nail this stuff, Lil Nas X Old Town Road is now the highest certified song in history. Yeah. And can we talk about how people were arguing that it wasn't country music because he was black? Let's be real, and I'm gonna take this all the way up into 2021, right? There was an article on The Root, I think either last week or the week before, that was talking about a phenomena that's called digital blackface. And this is something that we see, and I'm sure you have seen constantly. It's so bad. It's when people use black people as memes to talk about how, like, oh, this is me being exaggerated happy, like, yes, right? Or like, you know, like they use, like, think about how a lot of memes, a lot of gifs are black people. That's not a coincidence. And you know, this is let me take this. So there's not this malicious being that's like, oh yeah, we're doing this, blah blah blah. No, it's an amalgamation of not talking about racism and not understanding what racism actually is, and not actually trying to understand it and then refuting it. And because of that, it is in microaggression after microaggression that becomes, here's a black person showing an emotion that's funny, that's a meme. That one of what's her face comes to mind. I think it's the chick from Flavor of Love. Yeah, that happens. They have the Real Housewives of Atlanta or whatever. It's rough. It's really rough. And that's just with like the gifts. That's like the vast majority of people, white folk, that do that. Then there's the people that actually do digital blackface, politicians, and it's mostly politicians and other right-wing nut jobs that create fake profiles with black people's faces on them, just stock black people's images, and pretend to be black and support them. Every good TikTok dance was done by black people first and then popularized by white folk. Fact. I think white people instinctively know not to do this on someone's wall that they know personally. On bigger comment sections, it's friends. Oh yeah, absolutely, I agree with that. And yeah, every good TikTok dance was done by black people and then popularized by white folk. Let's talk about Fortnite. Let's talk about how Fortnite had stolen all of those dances from black folk and then refused to give them any royalties for it. And then when the black folk sued Fortnite for that, everyone was like, oh, y'all are just exaggerating, y'all are just being a lot, like it's not that serious, you don't like, it's just a dance, you can't copyright a dance. Hey, yeah, so yes, welcome, Bad Lex. I'm glad you're here. Yeah, it's rough. So digital blackface exists. Be mindful of it. So, enough about just my experiences, and I can go on for ages. Like, I've had cops point their guns at me. I've had cops pull me over for driving a new car and being like, you know why I pulled you over? No, why? Because you have temp license plates on your car. They're going to expire soon. I just bought this car yesterday, officer. The temp license plates are good for 3 weeks. Okay, I just wanted to let you know. Do you know why I pulled you over? Yeah, no. I've been kicked out of stores. I've been threatened. I've been patted down, and I hated it. I hate every second of it. Hate it. Telling me I was gonna steal stuff and then kick me out of the store. All I wanted to do was buy a stupid hard drive. You can't copyright a dance. If we can get DMCA'd for a Skrillex Splendor, well, excuse me, copyright that every day. It's not even that, because we know that you can do those things. It's just that they're from black people, so they don't care. Or use the bathroom. In a store. Oh goodness gracious, go to a store. I'm willing to drop thousands of dollars in a store. I'm like, hey, I saved up all my money so that I can buy stuff for myself, and say, hey, can I use the bathroom? And they go, you have to buy something first. I'm a customer, I have to pee, let me use the bathroom. No, only customers can, you have to buy something. I was like, peace. So enough about my experiences. I'm gonna talk a tiny bit about Black history and stuff, and about racism, about white fragility, and the best ways to be a better ally, and how to talk to your white friends, your white family members that you think that say things and you're like, I don't know what to do in this situation. I'm gonna tell you things that you can do. All right. LOL, trying to buy furniture and no one helping. Oh yeah, I mean, like, the list just goes on, and the fact that the list just keeps going on, and now y'all are like, oh yeah, this happened to you, and this and this and this. I'm like, I forgot. It's just so much. It's so much, and it's just overwhelming. And I was in my wonderful friend Nicole, Jack of Three Trades. I was in one of her streams a few weeks ago, and she was talking about one of the police brutality cases, and she's got them all mixed up, and she's like, oh my goodness. And I'm like, yeah, because it happens so often. It's so tiring, especially being Black. You're just like, oh my god, which one is which? What, like, and you're like, it just like, oh yeah, that one, oh wait, I thought it was this one. Oh, and it's tiring. It's so tiring. You're like, oh wait, Michael Brown, I thought that was the George Floyd case. Oh, that's the Breonna Taylor case. That's, and it's just tiring. It's tiring. Like, you dress plain and they think you broken up to ish. You walk in fancy, they think you're broken just front. It happens all the time. It's rough. I'm like, y'all don't know nothing about me. So to start off, I'm just gonna say racism isn't a binary. So what does that mean, right? Binary means two things. Binary means there's only two options, only two, right? Binary, ones and zeros. Binary, right? Racism isn't a binary. It's a spectrum. It's a spectrum. It's a box with a bunch of different parts. You could be anywhere on the spectrum of racism. It's not binary. It's not I am racist or I am not racist. It is a spectrum, right? And this is something that a lot of people, I gotta go to bed, I gotta get up early. Will there be a VOD of the stream? Yes, I'm gonna download the VOD, but I'm not gonna leave the VOD up on Twitch. So if you're not, let me give my spiel. We are UzerFriendly, an organization dedicated to creating a community safe space for people to enjoy and learn about geek culture. Use the !Discord command to talk to us, have fun. We're in there all the time talking about video games and pop culture and music and Lady Gaga, and it's a lot of fun in there. And you know, your new friends are waiting for you there. So come check us out. If you're not following us, hit that follow button, and this VOD will be on our YouTube channel. Love it. So racism isn't a binary, okay? So it is not I am racist or I am not racist. You can be anywhere in the spectrum. And something that I've noticed a lot of white folk do, and it is very upsetting, they quote that Avenue Q song, everyone's a little bit racist, right? And that song is so half-wit. It's so half-wit, it's not even there, right? It's like everyone's a little bit racist sometimes, doesn't mean we go around committing hate crimes, right? It's like, yeah, like, oh yeah, then it's fine to do racist things and say racist things, and it's like, no, that's not the point. The point is that everyone has racial biases because they are a fundamental part of our society, and they are the essential building blocks of our country, of America, at the very least. Because again, I'm only somewhat knowledgeable on Black American history, so they are the building blocks of American history in this country. And a lot of people benefit from that privilege. They benefit from not having to know or understand any of that stuff. So, something that a lot of people do not understand is that racism does not just equal white supremacy. right? It's like, oh, well, I'm not a white supremacist, so I'm not racist. That's not true. Get that out of your head. That's not true. That has never been true. You can have your privileges, you can have your biases. And it's something that a lot of people need to understand, that there are certain intrinsic biases and things that you might say that are racist, or things that you have benefited from that are racist. I mean, in the beginning of the stream, hey, thank you so much, Derek for the follow. Greatly appreciate it. There's things that you might, as a white person, might benefit from that you don't know, and it is racist. In the beginning of the stream, I talked about the education system, right? And I talked about how different my education system was when I lived in a primarily people of color area, person of color area, black, BIPOC, whatever you want to say, area, versus when I went to a primarily white area. Huge gap. That in itself is a privilege. If you get to grow up and go to school and not have to worry about paying bills, and you get to live in an apartment or a house and all that stuff, that is intrinsically a white privilege. And that doesn't mean that people of color and black people can't experience those things. They absolutely can. But I'm just telling you that white people have had hundreds of years of a head start. So when you tell black people to pull yourselves up by your bootstraps, you are completely ignoring the fact that you've had a large head start. And that leads me into where this head start came from. So I'm sure y'all all know that black people were slaves in America. If you didn't know that, well, please please read a book. So black people were slaves in America, and after what do you do when you have no bootstraps? Exactly. So after we were emancipated, they were like, hey y'all, how are black folks supposed to do anything, right? They don't have names, they can't read, they only have skills like farming and you know, anything like outdoorsy and house cleaning and stuff like that. And it's like, what do we do? And they were like, I got it. You know what? You're right. They're good. So we'll give them what's known as 40 acres and a mule. All right, 40 acres and a mule. So they gave black people in the South 40 acres of land and a mule so that they can farm and that they can like start to build up their wealth. You know what happens? These dang black folk living off the government, they don't deserve nothing, and the white people just take it. And who's backing those white people? The same people that are backing them today, the police. They're like, oh yeah, sure, no big deal. Like, yeah, like they're like, yo, that their land is mine, that's not yours, you're black, you don't deserve to have that land. So the white people just took it. And so we're like, oh, hey, oh my goodness, y'all, thank you Tashota for the 5 tier 1 subs. Thank you. Oh my gosh. Ooh, I'm gonna just do this real quick. I did not realize. Block. One of those people does not deserve to be in the stream. So they say 40 acres and a mule. White folk come out, they take the 40 acres and a mule, and we're like, well, dang, what do we do? Then white folk are like, hey, here's an idea. I got an idea for you. Listen up. All right, you're black, right? You're black, and I know you need money because you have a family and you wanna be free. I got you. All right, I'm gonna do this thing. It's called sharecropping. Okay, it's called sharecropping. Now hear me out. So you do all the farming, all the housework for me, right? You pick the cotton, you know, you till the soil, you do all this and all the housework for me, you cook for me, and you call me master, right? And I let you live here for free. Now what the hell does that sound like? Slavery. So we don't know how to read, we don't have nothing, right? So I'm gonna fast forward a bit, and we're gonna go into the 1920s, 30s, 40s, right? So it's the 1940s, it's World War II, and all these folk have gone in to protect American soil, right? It's like Pearl Harbor was such a devastating attack, and we're gonna go and we're gonna be America, we're gonna be the superpower, and we're gonna take down those dang Nazis, which we refused to do in 2021, but we had no problem doing in 1942, right? So we're gonna take down those dang Nazis. And and a lot of those people that were in World War II, a lot of those soldiers were black. A lot of the battalions were integrated, and a lot of them were segregated. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of the battalions and things during World War II were both integrated, and there were some that were segregated. Hey, thank you so much for the 1,000 bits. I greatly appreciate it, Lewis. So all these folks come back. America did it. We did it, y'all. We won World War II. We beat them Nazis. Yeah, we did it, right? And all these veterans come back and they're like, oh my goodness, what are we supposed to do? We don't got no job. We lost years of our lives to fighting in this war so that we can fight. And FDR comes up and he's like, you know what? I have an idea. We're gonna give y'all the American dream. Now, what the hell is the American dream? The American dream is rhetoric, is a nationalist rhetoric that was used by America, by a lot of American politicians, so that people had something a goal, a dream to look forward to, something to work towards. This rhetoric was so powerful that we still use it in 2021. Okay. Hey, thank you so much, exactly 92 sobbing horses, for the follow. I greatly appreciate it. The Russians actually beat the Nazis, so forget you, America. This is a fact. But so they're like, hey, y'all are gonna work towards getting a house. You're gonna have a nice house with a yard, and you know, I'm gonna, again, this is all 1940s cisgender heterosexual nonsense, but white nonsense, right? So they're like, hey, listen, so you got back from the war, right? You want to get a house, you want to get a car, you're gonna have a beautiful wife, you're gonna have 2.5 children, a nice dog, and a beautiful car, working this amazing job. So the government creates all of these jobs and for veterans to get into, and they create a thing called the GI Bill. And what the GI Bill is that it gave these veterans money, and if those veterans were looking to buy a house, they had a GI Bill backed loan. Okay, now this is where it gets real screwed up, and this is something a lot of people don't know. So I want y'all to think about where you live right now. And I'm about to blow y'all's minds, and it's gonna suck. Think about where you live right now. Think about the types of people that you are around. Think about the color of the skin of the people that you're around. Think about how much you have to drive to see people of color. And think about what those areas look like when it's people of color. Now, this is because of the GI Bill. Now, what happened was, white people went out and they would get their houses. Yay! They got houses that they had basically 0% interest on, that they barely had to pay. They got a job from the government. They essentially zero. They paid nothing. We're gonna say they paid nothing. I was getting to that, Tony. FDR excluded black folks from the New Deal programs, including Social Security, and was complicit to J. Edgar Hoover targeting black-led newspapers who were promoting the Double V campaign. Yup. Yes, 100%. 100%. So yes, FDR said you was like, oh my goodness, we're in the Great Depression, y'all are gonna get Social Security, where when y'all retire, y'all get a check from the government, everyone pays into it, and then everyone gets a universal check from the government except for black people. Black people were not added into Social Security until the late 70s, early 80s. And then when black people were allowed to get Social Security and food stamps and welfare programs, do you know what happened? They living off the government. It ain't fair. All these black folk trying to take things, they don't want to work for it. So rewinding, all these white folk go out and they get their house, they get their car, and they get a brand new job. They're making pretty good money and they're building wealth. They're building wealth with their family. Okay, black people say, you know what, I'm ready, I fought in the war, I want my house. You think you're getting this? No. You're too urban. Oh, thank you so much, K Whites, for the follow. Greatly appreciate it. They go, no, you're too urban. You can't. No, you can't buy this house. This house isn't for sale. You can't afford it. Nope. Can't do it. Redlining. They are afraid of what was called white flight. White flight is when and I'm gonna be completely honest, this is mostly when black people show up. So when black people come in and they get a house in an area, it significantly decreases the value of the house. This happens today in 2021. In 2021, this happens today. They have done studies. There are articles that happened last year. Someone had an appraiser come into the house that was white and did an appraisal, and then had a black person come into the appraisal, and the amount was significantly different. Significantly. We're not talking $5,000-$10,000. We're talking tens of thousands of dollars. Significantly different. White flight, it exists. So now black folk they can't get a house, they can't get the car. All right, so where do they go? They end up going into these cities. All right, they build these apartments, because they're cheaper and they can fit more people in them. So black people go and live in apartments. They're like, okay, cool, I want to go and get a job. You can't get a job. Why? I'm black. You can only do black people jobs. What? So what do you mean? Yeah, no, you can only do manual labor. You can do house cleaning, no, you got to do black people jobs. Well, what if I want to be a lawyer? Nope. Malcolm X. Okay. What if I want to be a doctor? Nope. Okay. Well, that's great. So they live in these cities, right? And now I'm gonna tell y'all the secret. The further into a city that you go, the more densely populated it is, and the more likely you are to see people of color and black people there. Because what they would do is they would build the suburbs around the cities. They build your houses, those beautiful houses and all those beautiful suburbs around the inner cities, because they didn't want those people going in and they didn't want them coming out. They didn't want us going in and they didn't want us coming out. So when you go into cities, especially like New York City and Westchester and all of that, and Chicago is very bad. I mean, there's still instances of contract housing in Chicago, which is absolutely horrible, and I cannot do that discussion any justice. It's essentially when and this happened mostly to black people, when a black person says, hey, suburbs were made for white people. Yes, they were. Yes, they were. 100%. They were made for white people, and then the ghettos and cities were made for black people. There's a quote from Boys in the Hood that resonates with me to this day, and it's literally is it Forrest Whitaker? I think it's Forrest Whitaker. I might be wrong, so correct me if I'm wrong. No, it's definitely not Forrest Whitaker. I can't remember who it is. He literally says they want us to kill ourselves. Why do you think there is a liquor store and a gun store on every corner of the hood? It's because they want us to kill ourselves. It's a fact. I'm gonna be real too. If you start driving around and you see those signs that say buying houses for cash, fast cash now, buy your house now, that's a very big sign of gentrification, and that's a very big sign of white people trying to take over where black people live, and then gentrifying it and renovating it so that more white people can live there, because black people are more likely to be in a less economically stable position to live in housing, and it is fast cash. In Paris, they built slums outside of the cities and pushed the Africans out of the cities via redlining. That happens here too. It's both ways, honestly. It's both ways. It's so bad. It's really, really, really bad. So yeah, that is where it gets started, where there's generational wealth in which your grandfather, your great grandfather was able to purchase a house. Lawrence Fishburne, thank you, Lawrence Fishburne, you're right, that's exactly right. Where your great grandfather, or even just your grandfather, was able to buy this house and get a job and build wealth for generations that gave it to your grandfather or your father, and then your father, and then to you. And you built this generational wealth, right? And then there are black people who don't get any of that. They don't have that generational wealth, where it is just you are where you have been because you are trying to catch up to everybody else. It's not pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And then we talk about education, where black folk didn't know, like slaves didn't know how to read. They literally did not know how to read, and that was done on purpose, right? Frederick Douglass, who is a huge misogynist, and we need to really recognize that part of history, but Frederick Douglass is known as, you know, a slave that was literate and wrote a whole biography. That's why Frederick Douglass is so not why, but one of the big reasons as to why Frederick Douglass is such a renowned person in history, even though we really need to readdress that. We really need to readdress that, because he was absolutely terrible to women. Absolutely terrible. So black people are trying to get to where white people already are, and then they say pull you up by your bootstraps. And then the US has had an awful upwards mobility rating despite being the most wealthy nation. It's awful. Yeah, it's absolutely awful. So we're circling back to what I had talked about previously in the beginning of this whole talk, where the education that I was receiving from a primarily BIPOC area and the education I received from a primarily white area were leagues different. We're talking from learning about butterflies to learning about the techniques and brushstrokes of Monet and Van Gogh and Picasso. Think about that. Drawing a butterfly to learning about actual historical artists. Michelangelo, Donatello, Leonardo, Raphael. Let's throw all the Ninja Turtles out there. There was something that happened when I was in college that really, it got me so angry. I went to a college that was incredibly affordable, and because it's affordable, that means that more black people and more people of color are able to get that secondary education, because we know secondary education is incredibly expensive and it should not be in this country. We know the amount of work that it takes to get into a lot of these colleges, like all this work, and then you might not even go in. And let's not even talk about how these colleges have application fees. Are you kidding me? Why am I paying you? Why am I paying you to tell me I'm too black to go to your school? That's an upfront cost. That is an upfront cost that a lot of people cannot afford. I couldn't even afford it. That's an upfront cost. Absolutely not. So I'm sitting in this affordable college and I'm listening to this white guy talk, and he says, you know, I really hate it here. And the person he's talking to is like, why? And he's like, well, nobody here cares about their education. They just don't care. They just shrug it off and they're like, whatever. And the person's like, I don't know about all that. And he goes, yeah, like when I go to this insert private college here, it's so different. Like everybody cares and it's a much better atmosphere. And she's like, I don't really know about all that. Then he goes, yeah, I don't know. It just feels different here. And I looked at this kid and I said, why do you think it feels different? And he's like, oh, because all the people in the private college care. And I'm like, really? Why do you think they care? Oh, because they take it seriously. I'm like, no, they don't. Why? Tell me the real reason why you don't like it here. Well, the atmosphere is different. Okay, what's different about the atmosphere? I don't know. Nobody cares. No, there's more black people here. This college is primarily has a large population of black students, and the college that you're talking about does not. Yeah. I'm like, say the part out loud. Say it. Needless to say, that kid did not talk to me ever again. I don't even know the kid's name. I don't even know the kid's name, but I don't take that nonsense. I don't take that nonsense. Yeah, challenge them. Tell me. So that leads me into the next part. So we talked about a large reason as to why black people are still trying to catch up economically, and you know why you live in suburbia and you're like, you know, I've only ever talked to 5 black people in my life. Yeah, that was done on purpose, right? Especially if you don't live. Another thing that's wild is if you take a look at a map of the United States and you look at the demographics of the people that live around America, the vast majority of states where black people live are where slaves were held, or it was a path from the Underground Railroad. Even in Canada, I should mention that too. A lot of black Canadians were runaway slaves, or their ancestors. And let me not say ancestors like it was that long ago. Only less than 200 years ago. Less than 200 years ago. So if you look at a map, let's talk about South Carolina, North Carolina, Kentucky, Alabama, Tennessee, Florida. You know, all those places were large slave states. And that's where there is a primarily black population. And then when you start moving out westward, talk about places like Kansas, like Arkansas and Montana and Dakotas, and there's not that many black people out there. Yeah, that's because we didn't live there. We never did. We were brought from boats, brought down here to be slaves, and then we stayed here or we migrated upwards. It's wild. It's wild. That's how much of an effect these things happen. Like we talk about, oh, it was so long ago. It really wasn't that long ago. So we talked about that. Now I'm going to talk about white fragility, and this is something that a lot of people are going to get angry at me for, and you know what? I do not care. I don't care. So I'm going to give my spiel before I go into white fragility. We are UzerFriendly, an organization dedicated to creating a community safe space for people to learn and enjoy geek culture together. If you'd like, you can use the ! Discord command to join our community safe space and meet your new friends today. We talk about video games, pop culture, comic books, movies, music, all the stuff. It's great, and you have a bunch of new friends waiting for you. So use that ! Discord command. So, white fragility. What is white fragility? White fragility is a term coined, or I shouldn't say coined, made popularized by a white person named Robin DeAngelis. I have changed my stance on this book. My original stance on this book was I hated it. I've read her essay, and the essay was interesting to say the least, but I hated the book. But I recommended it because white people might resonate more with a white person writing about it. But I have changed my stance on this. Do not read that book. You should read So You Want to Talk About Race. Robin DeAngelo. Appreciate it. Do not read that book. Read So You Want to Talk About Race. Much better book. Also written by a black person. What is white fragility? White fragility is when you are talking to white people about race and racism and structurally racist things, and they get defensive. They start to say, well, not all white people, and well, you don't know what I've been through, and I work really hard to be an ally, and it's not fair that you're saying that I'm doing something racist. Let's take a prime example. Let's take the Ninja situation that happened either last week or the week before, right? Where Ninja was 100% okay with saying Black Lives Matter when it was popular during the summer. But when asked to say, hey, you need to tell your communities that racism is bad, the very bare minimum, and that you should not be racist to black folk, the bare minimum, his retort was, you don't know what I do, and I've donated tens of thousands of dollars, more than you have ever done. And they said that to black women, and one in particular, the one person they said that to in particular was Black Girl Gaming, who has created a community for black women to get into content creation, who was the gamer of the year during the video game awards. And you're trying to tell them that you have put in more than they have? Got it. That is white fragility. In an individualist society, people's main priority is covering their own butt. Yes, hence white fragility. Agreed. Basically, it's like what men do to women when they talk to them about... Exactly. It's defensiveness. There's no need to be defensive. Hence, my first disclaimer during the stream, I am not here to debate. Thoughtlessly donating versus trying to raise up others. Exactly. Like, I'm not here to debate. Like, this is not a debate. This is all facts. Everything I have said is an absolute fact. So, it's when you're talking to white people about racism and how something that they may have said or something that they do is racist. And instead of learning and growing, like Bastet is saying, take the L and grow as a person. Exactly. Instead of learning and growing, they get defensive and they say, well, you don't understand. You don't know. I do this. I do that, and blah 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 blah, and you don't get it, blah 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 blah. You're the one that's being racist because you were saying that I'm white. Yeah, that's white fragility, and it's rough, and I get it. I'm here to tell you that I get it. I get how difficult it is. It's difficult to look at yourself and be like, yo, am I racist? Because the answer to that question is yes, you are, right? Like it's rough. It's like racism is painted as this absolutely awful thing, because it is, and it's painted as this binary, which it isn't. And when somebody says maybe you are doing something racist, or you are saying something racist, or that you are benefiting from something racist, and you're like, oh no, it can't be, no, I'm not awful, I'm not evil. And it's like, no, you need to come to terms with that so that you can, yes, I'm gonna get into that in a second. It's like you need to come to terms with that so that you can grow as a person. And my life has been a massive series of hardships. You know what would have made everything experience hard? Being black. Exactly, right? Being black it already starts you off on hard mode in the world. Being black is playing the game on hard mode. It doesn't matter where you are, doesn't matter how much money you've got, doesn't matter how you dress or how you talk or what you do. It is, you are immediately on hard mode. It does not matter. They will absolutely throw you under the bus, no matter how much of an Uncle Tom you might be, Candace Owens. As soon as you are not useful, they are gonna toss you right under the bus. Yes, racist against white people, and that's the next part of white fragility. It's when we start talking about racism, and it's like, well, you said I was white, and now that's racist. Oh, you say all white people do this, that's racist. When I was in the stream, the conversation was, well, you can be racist against white people. The answer to that question is no, you cannot. White is not a race. Hey, thank you so much, Remy DYYC. Greatly appreciate the follow. I don't even know what that means, friend. And honestly, I don't know if I care enough. If that's not about what we're talking about, then cool. Space Peach, that's the excuse I always hear. I've been through more hardships than black person. I've done fine. Exactly. The latest gem, I can't be racist. I have a black friend. I get that all the time, right? So now a little bit of a lesson. White is not a race. White has never been a race and never will be a race. White is not a race. White is a nationalist concept that was created to create a hierarchy to bring black people and other people of color down. Irish used to be a race. German used to be a race. Russian used to be a race. All of those things used to be races, right? Look, and they were not white. They never were white. But here we are in 2021. All of those people are now under the umbrella white. That is not a mistake. There's a great episode of the newer Twilight Zone where a mom and her son are trying to get him to college. Then this cop keeps pulling them over and killing the son. It's basically Groundhog Day. Yup. No matter what they do or change, the cop always finds a reason. It's literally, you know. So white is not a race. Black is a race. White is not a race. Black people are black. White people are Irish, Russian, Italian, German, French, and you know, those are all white, right? All used to be separate races, and now they're all under the umbrella white, and that was done on purpose. So, fun fact: founding fathers thought of incoming Germans. Yeah, it's literally. When I did the racism talk in August, I literally had the signs that would say Germans not allowed to apply, Irish cannot live here, no Irish allowed. Like that they used to be races, and they're not races anymore, and that's done on purpose, and that was done after World War II. during and after World War II, because it was a nationalist effort. The best way to get people together is to get people to hate on the same thing. The definition of whiteness has been expanding forever. Exactly. And there's a book by Ta-Nehisi Coates, Between the World and Me, that goes a little bit more in depth on the concept of whiteness, and it's very good. And if you haven't read it, you should. It's got pictures. The text is pretty big. It's like less than 100 pages long, or it is 100 pages long, and the text is like super big. Definitely worth the read. So how is it that you get over your white fragility? The best answer to that question is to, when somebody speaks, you listen. What does that mean? That means you don't retort. That means you don't debate. That means you listen. So notice how y'all are all in this stream right now, and y'all are listening to me, right? And that there's not a whole debate going on. And it's not like, well, you don't know what that teacher was thinking about. You don't know what you don't know what that teacher was thinking about. Maybe that teacher was busy. Maybe this, maybe that. There's always two sides to a coin. No. Exactly. No. That's white fragility. And the best way to get over that white fragility is to just listen. You just don't say anything. When somebody speaks, especially black people, when black people speak and they speak about their experiences, you just shut up and you listen. It's that simple. And the fact that I have to have this discussion on a stream, the fact that I have to have this discussion, because even just a week ago, I'm in this stream, in the stream chat, and they're talking about this, and they're like, hey, like, Anthony is really trying to help you, and this person is like, well, blah, 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 but then the white person that's in the chat says something that I said already, and the person agrees with it, that is indeed racism. And it's like, well, I don't know. And it's like, yes, you do. Yes, you do. And welcome, A Black Sparrow. I'm so glad you came out to the stream. This is a week ago. This was a week ago. You just, when black people speak, you just shut up and listen. When you, and this is something that I posted on Twitter, and I'm going to reiterate it here. Been lurking and listening on my drive home. I greatly appreciate it. If y'all aren't following A Black Sparrow, y'all should follow A Black Sparrow. They are an amazing human being. They were a part of the hosting workshop that I did a couple of months ago, and I did a consultation with them, and they are great, and they do some really great stuff. I'm going to exclamation mark shout out A Black Sparrow. Boom. Y'all follow A Black Sparrow. They're great. Absolutely great. Another thing to help is when you do not speak on behalf of black people. And I said this on Twitter, and I'm going to triple down on this. And y'all are going to be mad, and I don't care. If you are white, we do not care about your opinions or takes on racism, whether they are good or not. We do not care. We have to deal with it every single day of our lives. We cannot go anywhere. We cannot do anything without experiencing racism. You can. You have the ability to just ignore it or to just turn it off and never think about it ever again. We do not have that privilege. So I do not care about your take. I don't. None of us do. If you have a good take on racism and you want to be anti-racist, you know what you should do? Go on Twitter. You follow A Black Sparrow. You follow Love Less Games. You follow Cypher of Tur. You follow Pleasantly Twisted. You follow Milady Confetti. You follow Black Folk. And when they talk, you hit this button It's got 2 arrows. One goes down like this, the other one goes up, right? Down and then up. 2 arrows, right? It's called the retweet button. And then you hit retweet. When the little box that pops up that's like comment, don't comment. Don't do that. No, you just hit the retweet button. You hit the like button. Oh, you think that you want to add on to that take? You want to be like, oh, preach it, I agree. Don't do that. Don't do it. Don't go in the comments. Don't go in the comments. You follow this Anthonite fella too? Exactly. So don't go in the comments and try typing your stuff and thinking, oh yeah, people care. No, the only thing that you should be saying is thank you, or you should say, what is your Patreon, your Ko-fi, your how do I give you money, your Cash App, your Venmo, how do I give you money? That's it. But like on Twitter. Yes. Exactly. You do not comment anything else. You just boom. Can I mail you a savings bond? Here's how you support Anthony. Hit that follow button. Yes, Patreon is a huge help. With the Patreon, we do so many big things. We're also planning another charity event soon, so please be ready for that. I'm really excited about that. And a lot of the stuff that we do, all the funds go right into that. What about those who don't use Twitter? Oh, easy. Make friends. On Facebook, make friends with your local Black Lives Matter chapters. Instagram, follow more black artists on Instagram, and then like their stuff and then comment heart emojis on them. Give those people engagement. I mean, hell, go on OnlyFans. Find black folk there. Give them money. Give them money. So how do you talk? The last part is, how do you be a better ally? How do you tell your racist Uncle Charles to shut up? And the last part of this, again, when people speak, especially people of color, you shut up and you listen. When they're speaking about their experiences, you shut up and you listen. You don't comment, you don't quote retweets, you just retweet, you like, you shut up, you listen. No one needs to hear your takes. Nobody cares about your takes. Just support them, give them money. If you see that a black streamer is streaming, support them. Reach out to them and support them. Subscribe to their channels, like A Black Sparrow, like Loveless Games, like Cypher of Tur, like Milady Confetti, like Pleasantly Twisted, like Critical Bard. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. Big Cheese Kit. I mean, I could just go through the entire list. Infamous X1X. Go through and support them. And this is another thing. Y'all need to curate your entertainment to show more black people. Y'all are like, well, you know, not a lot of black people do things. Like, I don't have black tech people on YouTube, and oh, I don't know, there's no black people playing video games on Twitch. And yes, there are. The algorithms aren't giving them to you because you're not looking for them. I promise you. Thank you so much for the tier 1 sub, Tony. Thank you so much. So I promise you, something that you like, a black person is probably on that platform making the same exact thing and probably making it better. Look harder. Exactly. TikTok, like and comment. Engagement matters. Take it from the social media expert. Engagement is so important. Like, comment, share it. Follow more black artists on Instagram. Like their stuff. Comment on it. Comment heart emojis, heart eyes. Commission more black people. Support black people. Support sex work. Yes, black artists on social media, show them love. I promise you, because they do not get nearly the same amount of love as other people do. It's so rough. It's so rough. Support them. Black musicians, absolutely. And that doesn't mean Kanye West. No. No. But yes, black musicians, especially black indie musicians. Support them. That's how you be a better ally. Support them, because they don't get there. I don't care about Uncle Tom Kanye. But you have to, or Lil Wayne, like, you have to support black folk, especially when they're trying their hardest to get into that space, because it's harder for us to make it into those spaces. It's harder for us to get into Twitch streaming and to get into like YouTube and all that stuff. Or yeah, exactly, none of those folks, except Alex Mukala is amazing. I love Alex Mukala so much. Follow Alex Mukala on Twitter, please. He's so good. Go to their Bandcamp and actually buy their music. Exactly. Or their merch. Exactly. Because it takes us twice as hard work to get half as far as white folk. White mediocrity is celebrated more than black success, and it is so unfortunate, and I hate it. I hate it. And we need to support them, and we need to support each other. How do I talk to my racist uncle, my racist Uncle Patrick? So Uncle Patrick makes a racist joke. You ask them, what's funny about that joke? They'll explain, and you say, I just need you to elaborate a little bit further because I'm not understanding the root part of this joke. They might say, oh, you can't take a joke, oh, it's just funny. You're like, well, I'm trying to understand why it's funny. Why is it funny? Push them. Push them. Black researchers, educators, compensate and credit them. Exactly. Push them. Get them to say the quiet part out loud. And when those people aren't the ones that you always have to worry about. And this is where I'm about to, you can't get too aggressive, but you need to challenge them. You're right. Okay, right. You can't get too, yes, that's the white fragility, but you need to press them every single time. But those folks aren't the ones that you have to worry about. The ones that you need to worry about are the centrists. Martin Luther King Jr. actually had a really good quote. We're gonna look this up. From the letter from so it's from a letter from Birmingham jail. And it's the centrists. It's the people that are like, you know, I can still be friends with people that are Trump supporters. They're not racist just because they support Trump. Right. It's those same people where they're like, well, you know, there's two sides to every coin. We don't know the full story. Those are the minds that you need to change. And those are the minds that you really need to work to change. And that's on y'all white folk to change. Oh, he's about to bust out. Yeah, I always bust out this quote. Martin Luther King Jr. says in a letter from let me actually give you the preface of this. A letter from Birmingham jail. is a letter that Martin Luther King Jr. wrote when he was thrown in jail for peacefully protesting. The thing about this was that Martin Luther King Jr. was being shown on multiple media outlets as essentially one of the leaders of the civil rights movement, and a lot of people were afraid of him, but he never did anything violent. He never did anything that could lead to arrest or anything, but they believed that he was essentially an advocate for it based off of him pushing for equality. So he goes to Birmingham, Alabama, and the deputy sheriff is like, you know what, I'm so sick and tired of this guy, I'm just gonna arrest him. Martin Luther King Jr. shows up to give a speech, and they arrest him on the spot, throw him into Birmingham jail. And this made national spotlight. Him going into Birmingham jail is arguably the reason as to how he became so immensely popular and martyrized. So he's sitting in this jail cell, and I don't know if y'all know, but jail cells don't just sit there. You can't just type on a little computer and, you know, when did you write this? 1959? Something like that. You know, you can't just type on the computer. No. He's sitting there, and he's got a crayon and toilet paper, paper towels. I think he had like 1 or 2 sheets of paper, and he writes this letter on toilet paper and paper towels and a couple sheets of paper. And he says, Martin Luther King Jr. says, I must make 2 honest confessions to you, my Christian and Jewish brothers. First, I must confess that over the past few years, I have been gravely disappointed with the white moderate. I have almost reached the regrettable conclusion that the Negro's great stumbling block in his stride toward freedom is not the white citizens counselor or the Ku Klux Klanner, but the white moderate, who is more devoted to order than to justice, who prefers the negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the absence of justice, who constantly says, I agree with you in the goal you seek, but I cannot agree with your methods of direct action, who paternalistically believes he can set the timetable for another man's freedom, who lives by a mythical concept of time, and who constantly advises the Negro to wait for a more convenient season. Shallow understanding from people of goodwill is more frustrating than absolute misunderstanding from people of ill will. Lukewarm acceptance is much more bewildering than outright rejection. Martin Luther King Jr. on toilet paper and paper towels. Neutrality only helps the oppressor. Exactly. Those are the people. I have literally had somebody come into my mentions when I posted that quote and say to me, wow, how dare you twist Martin Luther King Jr.'s words like that? He would be ashamed. I literally said, I quoted him word for word. Those are the people that you need to really push and change the minds of. Yeah, wild. Yeah. That was a wild time. That was a different time. Way different time. So, my friends, who you have those white centrist parents, white centrist grandparents, or uncles, or cousins, or friends, talk to them. Get them to understand these things. People keep pushing black folk to teach all of these things, and people keep pushing they say, oh, my black friend, they ask, I mean, I get this all the time. People message me, was this racist? Well, what do you think about this? What about this? Send me a video. Why do you think this was racist? Like, what about that? And I'm like, yo, I'm not just the black friend, right? Like, It's not like that. Did you see that the police force had the audacity to put her? Oh my goodness gracious. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. That's exactly it. And we didn't even get into the part about how the FBI admitted to killing Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X, right? If you have to ask if it was racist, it probably was. Exactly. And it's like, take it upon yourselves to learn these things, right? Read more books written by black folk. Follow more black folk on your social media. Watch more black folk. And I haven't even gotten, literally haven't even scratched the surface of anything. It's been 2.5 hours. I haven't scratched the surface at all. They admitted, sorta kinda. COINTELPRO, they admitted to COINTELPRO multiple times. And they also have had Reagan talking about, yeah, they published all the documents about how Reagan and COINTELPRO and all of that great fun stuff. For those of y'all that don't know, COINTELPRO was a segment of the CIA. It might not have been CIA. It might have been a segment of it was either the FBI or the CIA, that they recruited black people to be spies and spy on black leaders. So they spied on like the Black Panthers, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King Jr. There's an actual, it is the FBI. There is a documentary that just came out a few weeks ago called MLK FBI that talks all about it. So if you want to learn a little bit more about it, it is very disturbing. And I get white folk all the time with them tinfoil hats saying, oh, the government's always watching me and they're trying to chip me and this and that. And it's like, yo, imagine being black. Because yeah, COINTELPRO existed and it was really bad. Like really bad. And it's really creepy because it's something out of like the Twilight Zone, where you'll watch speeches and you'll see the same people, like the same person doing security for all of these different leaders. It's really creepy. I love that FBI assassinations are as far as leftist conspiracy theories go, right? Because I mean, it's not even a conspiracy theory because it's been, and then you look at exactly, like literally it's been admitted. So it's like they've never admitted like, oh, we killed these people, but like, come on, it's not, that's not even a half step. The police in NYC were arresting black folks marching for Black Lives Matter on Martin Luther King Day. They had the audacity to talk about MLK's legacy on, yeah, exactly. It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. So those are the folks that the white moderates are the folks that you really need to work towards teaching them a little bit more. That means reading up more on reading up more black books and following more black people on Twitter and learning more about their experiences, not asking them. They don't have to give everything up front to you. You know, they're not there to teach you. I'm doing this because I have the mental capacity to do this. I'm doing this because I have the mental capacity to do this. I did this in August and I wanted to do it again because it keeps coming up, and it's something that I feel I wanted to make an official like statements on again, because it's been a while and we've come a long way from August up into February. So read more books written by black folk. Trust me, you'll tell the difference. We were talking about that in the exclamation mark Discord. Act Black Sparrow mentioned it earlier. The caucasity is the word for it. Caucasity. Also, it's funny, people will be super individualist about everything until it comes to educating yourself on racism. Yeah, absolutely. They'll say, well, this is something that gets on my nerves all the time. Well, how do you expect us to learn more if all you do is attack us when we ask you questions? Yeah, I don't see no money anywhere. Do I look like a teacher? Don't follow black people just for being black, though. That comes off as tokenism. I agree with that. Absolutely, I agree with that. I think a better way of saying that is you should follow more black people to diversify your spaces, and it helps you understand that black people are people. They are people, and you will find black people in your spaces that have the same things that you like and enjoy. Seek out black creators who do things exactly like it's like, oh, and I've gotten this all the time. Well, I don't know any black tech YouTubers. Bro, the largest tech YouTuber is black. Like, what? It's like, oh well, I don't know any black video game people that play first-person shooters. Huh? It's like, come on now. Come on now. Like, literally, even MKBHD, baby. Exactly. Literally one of the largest YouTubers out there is a black tech tuber. And I've had people tell me flat out, well, I like watching tech videos, but I don't think there are black people that do tech videos. And I'm like, what rock do you live under? But yeah, we are people, and we have the same interests that you do. I mean, like, literally, I love JRPGs. JRPGs are my favorite thing in the world. And I follow, what's his name? Shadow Elite or something like that on YouTube. And all he does is talk about JRPGs. And he's black. It's like, that was easy. I like listening to politics. I like listening to political stuff. And I was like, I want to get more black people on politics. That one janitor. Boom. That was easy. And then what you can do is you take those people and you see who they follow, and you see the channels that they recommend, and then you follow those channels. And then that's how you diversify your spaces, because a lot of the algorithm is just white people. The form of feminism I was raised on was very confrontational about his beliefs and framed by a mentality that if someone was always willing to argue for their beliefs, and their cause clearly wasn't important to them, so why should you care? It's a toxic mindset I had to unlearn. Exactly. Wasn't always willing. Yeah, exactly. A lot of people are just moderates and they don't understand. And the thing is, like, we're not teachers. Like, black people aren't teachers, and black people are not the people that are supposed to be ending racism. They never have been, never will be. Black people did not end segregation. Black people did not end slavery. Black people, we fought for it, but we were not the ones that ended it. It has never been us. We did not create this structure, and it's not our job to fix it. Never has been, never will be. And you are lucky if you have friends that are willing to openly talk to you about this. By the way, Sail donated. Oh yes, thank you, Sail, for the 100 bits. I thought I said that already, but I apologize. I think that was when I was reading the quote, and then in my brain I had said it. So I apologize, Sail. Thank you so much for the 100 bits. I greatly appreciate it. Happened twice. It did. So yeah. On that note, I want to say thank you to everyone who joined out today. This was great. Oh my goodness, thank you for the bits again, Sail. You know I love you. I love you so much. So I want to say thank you to everyone that came out today. I greatly appreciate this. Thank you for listening. Thank the mods for allowing me to be able to speak freely, and then when people said something stupid, it could go away. Don't forget to follow if you're new. Thank you, Sail. You're right. So for those of y'all that are new, we are user-friendly. We are a community safe space. We are an organization dedicated to creating a community safe space for people to learn and enjoy geek culture together. So we do a lot of different charity events. We actively seek out games about representation and diversity, and it's really, really, really great. If you want to learn more about us, I highly recommend joining our ! Discord server, which is the official community space, safe space out there for geek culture. It's absolutely great in there. We talk about video games, talk about music. We were talking about Lady Gaga cookies the other day. We've been playing Final Fantasy 14 non-stop. We talk about movies, TV shows. It's phenomenal in there. I love it. I love all my wonderful friends in there, and your new friends are waiting for you in that ~ Discord. Can you like imagine you're sitting there and you're sitting on the stream and you're like, oh my goodness, I'm lonely and I really wanted to make new friends and I don't know how to do that? Well, guess what? Right there, ooh, there is your ! Discord. Which black content creator are we rating when we're done? We are a part of Twitch's official Black History Month 2021 team. So we are going to pass that love on to one of our wonderful friends. Let's see who is live. Let's see who we've got here. Oh, Dehydration or Betty Nix. Both are absolutely phenomenal people. So again, thank you so much. If you're not following us, make sure to follow us. Join us in our Discord. It's so great in there. Love it. We would love to see you, and your new friends are waiting for you. We stream every Sunday morning for Black History Month. We are going to be streaming on Sunday mornings at noon every Sunday, and we stream Geek Talks every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, every single Tuesday night. And this whole month is dedicated to Black brilliance. So we're going to be getting a lot more black folk up on this channel so that I can show our love, and we can have our community show their love and give their love, the love that these people deserve, because these people are phenomenal, like absolutely phenomenal. So let's take a look at the team and see who is live. Jane Henry is making Korean fried chicken. Whoa, ooh, that sounds yummy. I want to rate someone that was in the meeting, because those are the people that I've met. Let's see what we got. Woo! I love it. Oh, you know what? Our wonderful friend Infamous is streaming. We're gonna rate Infamous. So y'all, if y'all are subs, y'all are gonna spam the friendly Chan High and the user-friendly heart emotes, okay? Let's see, what is Infamous streaming? Infamous is streaming Apex. Awesome. So we are gonna raid Infamous, all right? I better see a ton. There's 122 of y'all, so I better see a ton of hearts and a ton of friendly Chan Highs, okay? I love Infamous. She is such a great person. So we are going to raid her. So thanks so much for watching, y'all. Have a wonderful night, and make sure to show Infamous that love, okay? Bye.